It's Powerback time on the Gutsy Podcast, your 20-minute boost to reclaim and refocus your energy. Get ready to have bursts of clarity, a boost of confidence, and the practical steps you need to make gutsy moves forward. You've got big things to do, so let's get your power back. I noticed something about myself the other day. I was walking through my house and realized I'm still walking on my tiptoes. Quiet, careful, trying not to be heard. Now, nobody recently has asked me to do that, and no one needed me to, but my body learned a long time ago that being smaller was safer, that being quiet in my own home was the better option. And that got me thinking, how many ways do we minimize our presence without realizing it? Not just in big, obvious ways, but in how we move, how we dress, how we speak, and how we ignore our own needs. Today, we're going to explore the obvious and maybe not so obvious ways that you may be minimizing your presence and the subtle shifts you can begin making to take up the space you deserve. These are the types of skills that we learn and we practice inside the Gutsy Collective. This is a supportive space where you learn to prioritize yourself again, to build your confidence, to manage and balance your time well, to relearn how to trust yourself, and to make the small, subtle moves that add up to the bigger changes in your life. Listen, you can keep waiting for the right time to make your move, or you can start preparing for the right time to make your move. The Gutsy Collective is the space where you build the skills and the confidence to do it. Start your free 30-day trial. Yeah, 30 days for free. That's new, by the way, by going to LauraAura.com and clicking on the Gutsy Collective. You know something, every time I think that I have mastered a layer, I realize that the onion is just indefinite. I'm just accepting that. We are always growing. We are always evolving. There's always an opportunity to better ourselves for ourselves. And I'm not saying we always have to be on this personal development journey, but I'm saying that sometimes when you achieve certain levels of feeling good or success, sometimes it uncovers other areas. And this was one of those things, okay? This is not huge, okay? This is not life-changing, but it was important enough that it caught me off guard. And it also stopped me in my tracks. So I'm walking around my house the other day, okay? I tend to have a heavy foot. I will preface this conversation with, I tend to walk a little bit hard. And so I am mindful about not walking through my house and spaces like I'm a fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex. But what I noticed was I was really muting my steps. I was going from one room to another, and I don't know why this caught my attention on this particular day, other than it was something that I needed to recognize in myself and then be able to turn around and teach you. I just recognized that I'm walking on the balls of my foot. Okay, I'm not on my tiptoes, but just a little bit more. I'm walking around on the soft pads of my feet. And I'm noticing how my house is completely silent. Okay, you couldn't tell that I was walking around. I was actively trying to be quiet, to be careful, trying not to be heard. And I literally stopped in my tracks and I put my whole heel down on the ground. And out loud I said, why are you minimizing yourself? Why are you trying to be quiet? Again, not trying to walk around acting like the jolly green fucking giant, but I don't need to be silent. And I definitely don't need to be silent in my own personal space. And of course, curiosity took me down a journey. I'm like, where did this come from? Where did I learn this behavior? And it took me back to growing up when I realized that my mom wanted us to be silent. If we were too loud, we got our asses beat. If we made too much noise, we got yelled at. If we walked around too hard, we got grounded. If there was any disruption to my mom in our home, we got in trouble. And so I learned that being quiet kept me safe. Being quiet kept me in the positive. Being quiet kept me out of trouble. Now, this is not something that I've walked around really remembering. And this is where I'm saying, the onion has got layers for layers, because I've done so much healing work, and I see this as an opportunity to yet again learn more about myself, to release the old habits and beliefs that I formed out of necessity. I am now a grown-ass woman. I have created an incredibly loving, safe, beautiful, nurturing environment. And for me, in this particular situation, this is an opportunity to nurture my inner child, to let her know that she is allowed to take up space, that she's allowed to be heard, that she's not going to get in trouble. In fact, people need to know that she's around because she's pretty freaking awesome. Now, habits don't die overnight in any capacity. So I am learning to notice when I'm back up on the balls of my feet and I stop in the moment and I say to myself, it's okay. You can walk normal. And I put my heels down on the ground and I continue walking. So I'm retraining myself. I'm learning this in the real, right now, live time. And then, of course, my brain cracks open and is like, oh, Laura, where else are we doing this? How else are we minimizing our presence or making ourselves small or diluting parts of ourselves to fit in, to be accepted, to feel safe and secure? I know we've all heard the phrase, take up more space, but it got me thinking, how? Like, how do we take up more space? And especially, how do we know if we are taking up less space? How do we know if we are minimizing ourselves? So today I thought I'd walk you through some common things that you may have heard before and some unexpected ways that we tend to shrink ourselves to fit in. And the goal here is you don't have to crack open a wounded story. You don't have to go back to your childhood unless, of course, you feel called to. If there's something under the surface that needs worked on or healed, this is the opportunity to work with yourself, your journal, your therapist, a trusted professional to unpack some of that stuff. But my truest goal here is to bring awareness to the things that are on autopilot. To make you be like, I didn't notice that before, and now I can't not notice it. Thanks, Laura. And I'll go ahead and say, you're welcome. Because this is the kind of stuff where we change the trajectory of our confidence, of our success, of our health, of our internal well-being, lowering anxiety, like being able to relax. Like, we don't realize how much this kind of holding back and shrinking really affects our bodies and our minds and our nervous system. And when you notice it, when you have that awareness, then you can consciously choose what you want to do instead. Just like in my tiptoe story, I catch myself several times a day, to be honest with you, walking on the balls of my feet. And I have to say, okay, there it is. I see you. We don't have to do that anymore. And I put my heels down and I start walking again. I'm consciously aware of where I'm shrinking myself, and I'm consciously choosing how I want to show up instead. I don't have to have that tightness in my body. That anxiety is alive as if I am still that 6 or 7-year-old girl. But putting my feet down, changing that habit, it's teaching my body that it can exhale, that it's comfortable, that it is indeed safe. You might resonate with a few of these, and you might have your own, okay? So you can also journal on this, jot down the ones that are like, oh, yep, I didn't realize that one. And the whole goal here is to shift it in your favor, to give yourself the power back, okay? So let's get into these. First one, clothing. Do you ever notice or catch yourself tugging at your clothes? I remember back in the freaking early 2000s when we layered, God, there were so many layers with the cami and then the sweater and then the t-shirt and all that. Like, there were so many layers. Like, we couldn't leave the house without the cami underneath of every single thing. And I can remember always fucking tugging on it. Like, it needed to be straight and it needed to be clean and it needed to be sticking out of the bottom of the shirt so far so that you could see it. So it had contrast, and like that's just one example. But I think about how many times do we tug at the clothing that we're wearing in order to hide our bodies. We're pulling on the sleeves, we're tugging things down, we're pulling jeans up. And, sometimes that's just human stuff because clothes do shift. But I'm talking about kind of that nervous habit of always adjusting our clothes so that we feel like we look more confident in ourselves. This is another one that I'm learning to break the habit of. I look back at some of my speaking gigs. You want to go through a humble experience, watch yourself back on video. Okay. And I'm tugging at my clothes and I'm like, God, that comes across like I'm not confident, but yet the words that I'm saying are strong, are clear, are powerful. I'm trying to minimize my body because I'm not comfortable in my body, but it's negating what I'm saying with my, you know what I mean? Like it's messy. And then I'm thinking about other ways we do this with our clothing, wearing smaller heels so that we don't appear as tall or dominant, especially if you're already a taller woman. Wearing neutral or muted colors so that you blend in and you don't stand out. Wearing uncomfortable clothes because it's going with the masses and what everybody else is doing it, but secretly you don't love it at all. And a lot of this is really coming back to choosing things that make you feel comfortable and confident. Choosing to take up that space. If you're already a taller girl and you want to wear heels, guess what? You get to wear the heels if you allow yourself to. If you've got an outfit that you have been saving for the right event or the perfect event, guess what? You can wear that shit to the grocery store. If you've been wanting to experiment with color or texture or patterns, but you keep going back to the old reliable neutrals, let yourself experiment. And such a big one is the fit. Like, how do you feel in these clothes? I know when I looked back at that video of me talking where I was tugging a lot, I was not comfortable in those clothes. They were not 100% me, but I created something and I wore something that I thought would be me, but it wasn't. So it was a learning experience. I'm like, okay, nope, that's not the thing to do. And another big thing about that too, quick side note, is I am consciously aware that experience taught me I need to wear clothes that are simple. If it has to be tucked in a certain way or pulled a certain way or layered a certain way, and then you've got like layers on the layers on the layer, no. Okay, that I'm already thinking about pulling at it. So I learned, okay, I need to go more simplistic. So just start to notice your clothing and what you're choosing and what you are choosing to hide, to eliminate, to pull back on. This is a very subtle but very powerful way to start taking up space. Another one is changing your voice. Changing your voice to sound more professional, to sound more likable, to sound like the other people that you're hearing in different spaces. And this might be changing your tone, changing your vocabulary, being agreeable with things that people are saying, even though you don't actually agree with them. Gosh, if you go back and listen to episode 1 of the Gutsy podcast, my octave is a lot higher. So imagine if I all of a sudden started to talk like this again to you. No, okay? I have a deep voice. I accept that. Could I be mistaken for a 13-year-old boy? Maybe. Do I care? Absolutely not. This is my voice. Like, this is literally how I make a living. This is how I express. This is how I guide. This is how I teach people. So I'm not going to mute that anymore. I'm not going to change the tone. And this is what I'm suggesting to you is notice when and how you are changing your voice to fit the space that you're in. When you're on a Teams meeting or a Zoom call with your boss or your colleagues, are you changing the tone of your voice to sound like something else? And the real kind of underlying question there is, why isn't the natural tone of your voice enough? Why do you feel like you have to be someone else to be seen as a professional? So just going to slide that across the table. So the taking up space here is catching when you shift your voice, when you change your tone, when you are creating a vocabulary that you would just never really speak in, and shift it back to what comes natural to you. How do you want to talk? How do you naturally sound? What feels in alignment with you? And while we're on the subject of your voice, a very close second to this one is staying silent when you have something to say, when you have something to contribute, when you have a question to ask, when you agree or disagree with something. Heavy on the disagree there. Notice your silence and choose what you want to do instead. The next one is maybe a little unexpected, but damn if we don't do this. Holding our pee. Oh, yeah, we're going there. Holding your pee or ignoring your thirst, ignoring that you're hungry. And why? Because you don't want to disrupt something. You don't want to disrupt someone. You don't want to change a meeting or stop something. You don't want to speak up and say, hey, I need something. And this also kind of pairs with not adjusting your environment, like choosing to stay cold, staying uncomfortable, staying in a situation that is overstimulating. It's the silence instead of asking for what you need. Meanwhile, your body is screaming at you. I am going to explode if I do not pee. I'm starting to feel woozy because I haven't eaten since this morning and I need something. Asking someone to change the temperature of the room. You don't have to conform to these discomforts just because A, either nobody else is speaking up or asking, or B, because you feel like you're not allowed to. When you speak up about stuff like this, you also give other people, especially other women in the room, permission to do the same. Sometimes we just need to see that behavior modeled to know that, hey, it's okay to speak up. And this looks like asking to pause the meeting for a moment while you use the restroom, speaking up and saying, hey, can we adjust the temperature in this room? Or, hey, can I go get my sweater because it's chilly in here? Saying, hey, let's take a 10-minute personal break, and then stepping outside and doing some breathing exercises instead of sitting there and stewing in your own overwhelm. This is self-advocation. That, my friend, is an incredibly healthy, important way to take up space. This next one is probably a pretty familiar one, and that's making yourself easy to move around. Think about getting out of the way quickly when something or someone is coming through, and then apologizing while you're doing it. This kind of pairs with body language, shrugging yourself in, holding your arms crossed, rounding your shoulders, like literally physically taking up less space, and then apologizing for being there in the first place. It's kind of like you're a pawn on a chessboard and you're always getting out of the way for the king to come through. It's like, excuse me, miss, can you not be the king? That does not immediately equate to you are this cold, shut off, like brick wall that doesn't move for anybody. No, like there is a way to be mindful of your surroundings and the people that you are sharing it with. But you know the very clear difference between holding a space and moving when appropriate versus always dodging and pivoting and shrinking and apologizing, no matter where you are, no matter what room you're in, and what people are in it with you. So you can start taking up space by moving like you're the king, standing up taller, opening your gestures, moving when appropriate, not apologizing for existing in the space. That doesn't make you look like a jerk. That makes you look like you're a confident woman. And the last one that I want to share is downplaying yourself. Downplaying your thoughts, your beliefs, the words that you want to contribute by saying things like, well, this might be stupid, but, or I'm probably wrong here, but. How many times have you started off a conversation that way? And why? Because we're trying to preface it. We're trying to soften it. We're trying to come across as more approachable, like we're not arrogant. Okay. Think about also how downplaying yourself comes out when you're sharing your wins, like minimizing your achievements so that other people don't feel threatened or left behind, so that you don't seem like you're full of yourself or that you're arrogant. Taking up space means owning yourself, owning your thoughts and your opinions, owning your statements, owning your contributions, and most certainly owning your wins. Think about some of your closest friends or family or colleagues or people that like you just love to see win. Think about somebody in your close circle coming and telling you something that they did, an achievement that they made, an idea that they have. Is your immediate go-to to think, well, they're full of themselves. Well, I'm not doing that, so I'm not good enough. No, your immediate thought is, I want to celebrate you. This is amazing. Tell me more about this. So if that's possible for those people that you love and trust, couldn't the same be possible for you too? You don't need to downplay yourself and your wins to be more likable. Because if you are, and those people are accepting that, friend, you are in the wrong circle. These are just a few of the ways that we unintentionally minimize our presence. And they're going to be unique to every single person. So this week, as you go about your day, as you go to work, as you are existing in this world, I encourage you to notice, where are you making yourself small? Where are you minimizing? Where are you pulling back? You might find one thing, you might find 10. But what if we chose one area to take your power back in? One area to take up more space. Maybe it's walking normally instead of tiptoeing, sitting all the way back in your chair instead of leaning up on the front, wearing the thing that you love instead of the thing that blends in, speaking in your natural tone and volume, going to the bathroom when your body asked you to do it, finishing your sentence without softening it. Reclaiming your presence isn't about being louder or bolder or different. It begins with stopping the habit of shrinking. This is about choosing to stop abandoning yourself, even in the smallest of everyday ways. Your presence isn't something that you have to earn. It's something that you allow. If you have been craving a space where you can practice these types of things without judgment, without perfection, without needing to have it all figured out, the Gutsy Collective is the most, I'm a little biased, but it is the most powerful space that you can be in when you are learning to reprioritize yourself, build your confidence, and ultimately make those moves. I put a link in the show notes below to make it super easy for you to go to. And again, your first 30 days are free. If you have questions or you just want to come say hello, you can also come find me on social media. My handle is @thatLauraAura. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.